Thank God it's Monday. Welcome to Business Morning. It's a fresh episode for the week. I'm Ini John McQuarrie. Let's get right into business. CBOT agriculture futures were mixed in the past week on demand concern related to rising U.S. and world interest rate and potential recession that could follow. U.S. Labor Department will release August inflation reading, which is expected to hold above 8%. Chicago-based research company AgriSource says high odds that the Federal Reserve will raise rates by 0.75% to 3%. The outlook for agricultural futures is complex, with tight supply stocks battling faltering demand. Corn futures have extended the recent supply-driven bull run as the Department of Agriculture is expected to trim U.S. corn yield by 2 to 4 bushels per acre in its September crop report due on Monday. A sub-172 PBA yield will trigger the need to slow consumption by higher prices. Wheat futures ended higher as markets outside of Russia continued to carve out seasonal lows. US-EU wheat futures often find annual bottoms by the middle of September and record low at 2022-2023 combined stocks used in non-Black Sea exporting countries. And that's according to AgriSource. It expects a threatening wheat price trend to hold. Well, still in that commodities market, but now let's look at palm oil. And what we see there is that Malaysian palm oil futures edged up on Monday ahead of key palm oil board data supported by a rise in early September export. The benchmark palm oil contract FCOC 3 for November delivery of the Bursa Malaysia Derivatives Exchange gained 33 ringgit, and that's 0.92% to 3,627 ringgit a ton during early trade. For the fundamentals, the Malaysian Palm Oil Board, the MPOB, is scheduled to release August supply and demand data later on today. And also, we see that export of Malaysian palm oil products for September the 1st to the 10th rose by 9.3%. Then to the more popular crude oil now. Prices fell today with a global fuel demand outlook outshadowed by COVID-19 restrictions in China and the potential for further interest rate hikes in the United States and Europe. Brent crude futures dropped by $1.01 to $91.83 a barrel after settling 4.1% higher on Friday. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down by $1.13 at $85.66 a barrel after a 3.9% gain in the previous session. And back here in Nigeria, Nigeria's inflation rate is projected to climb higher by 0.76% to 20.40% in August. Well, that's according to the economic advisory firm Financial Derivatives Company. In its latest projection, FDC also forecasts that the nation's food inflation will rise by 1.49% to 23.9%, while core inflation will increase by 0.54% to 16.8%. The company says that the higher inflation forecast for August will mark its 7th consecutive monthly increase in and the country's highest in 16 years. Meanwhile, the National Bureau of Statistics is expected to release the latest inflation report on Thursday, which is the 15th of September, and comes a week before the meeting of the MPC. Let's take a breather now. When we come back from that breather, we do have great conversations on the other side. This is Business Morning, and it's a new week. Let's do it in a minute. Hey, welcome back. Well, the Whistleblower Initiative of the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service is supposed to subject the operations of LIRS to public scrutiny, promote openness and accountability, and ultimately enhance citizens' participation in governance. This is supposed to boost the trust in activities of the agency of government. But how much difference has it made so far? We have the executive chairman of Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, Mr. Ayodele Subaru, joining us in the studio now. Good to have you, Mr. Subaru. Good morning.
Good morning.
So for those who don't know, tell us about this Whistleblower Initiative.
Okay, thank you. This Whistleblowing Initiative comes right from the Lagos State government, and the whole idea is to try and bring a bit of probity and accountability and transparency in the running of the affairs of LIRS, being a major funding arm of the government. So the whole idea is to try and get stakeholders, employees, members of the public who are aware of any form of ethical behavior and report same so that such matters are dealt with. And the whole idea, like I said, is to improve transparency and accountability. And Lagos State government has deemed to start with the whole facility with LIRS, primarily because of the multifaceted angle with which we work. We have an outreach over the whole state. We have a lot of stakeholders who work with us. So nowhere better to start than the LIRS. It's going to go across all the Lagos State ministries, departments, and agencies at the end of the day.
So beginning with LIRS. So when we talk about we do have the federal government also, they have their own whistleblowers policy in different areas. But I guess one of the discouraging factors is the protection of the blower, the person who blows the whistle. What framework do you have to protect such an individual who blows the whistle, calls your attention to something wrong?
Okay, so the success of any whistleblowing framework has to seriously protect the whistleblower. The whole idea is that, they have some knowledge of suspected or alleged unethical behavior, and to encourage them to come out and report this wrongdoing, they must be guaranteed some protection. So under this framework, yes, the whistleblower is well protected. And the whistleblower can come in 3 different methods, either as a confidential whistleblower, anonymous, completely anonymous, or partially anonymous. So when you're completely anonymous, you don't even have to leave your name. There's no connection. They cannot see the telephone lines from which you're calling from. And you just simply give the details. The only problem with being completely anonymous is the follow-up and the amount of detail that can be obtained. Then there's the partial one. When you're partially anonymous, yes, you still give some further information. It may include your name and whatever particulars you want to give. If it's confidential, it's expected that you reveal your name, various details, what happened, where it happened, how it happened. But at the end of the day, there's protection for everybody. The details, where it concerns the operations of LIRS, the details are not revealed to management or members of LIRS. And to guarantee that independence, we're doing this facility through Deloitte, which is a globally acclaimed accounting firm, one of the top 4 in the world. And they are the ones who are going to manage this whole process. The toll-free lines go directly to them.
Okay, so it can be, you have your toll-free lines, because I wanted to ask, can they send messages through an unknown number, or, the platforms available for this anonymous, if I choose to do that, messages?
Yeah, like I said, the caller ID doesn't show anyway, so you can call from anywhere. You can choose to call and speak to any of your operatives. They receive the messages. They're multilingual, whether Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa. There's somebody at the other end who can take all the information. You can also decide to send emails, or you can go through the portal itself. Either way, it's your choice, whichever one is convenient for you.
But obviously, when someone is anonymous, that kind of poses a hurdle to your investigation, because you can't just take every claim on the surface. You have to investigate it and confirm if it's true or not. Okay,
so how it happens is the report goes to Deloitte. So from their platform...
What report? The report that is given from members of the public?
The report of wrongdoing. Whoever is whistleblowing, whistleblows directly to Deloitte. So Deloitte have their own framework. They take the information, they do a preliminary investigation to find out whether it's a genuine claim or not. When I say genuine, to ensure that it's not a frivolous or malicious call. So they do their initial findings, after which they escalate the issues through a different framework. Some could come directly to management of LIRS, and that is done under strict confidentiality. The details, they will not even release the details of the whistleblower when they do that. They just want us to go through operations to see if that thing happened or not. Other matters could be escalated, especially through the Ministry of Finance, which has an oversight on this facility. Some will probably even just go directly to the governor. Depends on depends on who the whistle is being blown upon.
Okay, again.
Yes.
Okay, so if it's somebody at the top management, then you might need to go.
It won't come to management.
So is there a system that streamlines it to who it goes to?
Yes.
Or everything goes to Deloitte and then Deloitte will now choose who to share it with?
The portal is run and managed independently by Deloitte. So all the whistleblowing matters go directly to Deloitte. So they then sift through and then decide through the established channels and framework where it will be escalated to.
So who can be a whistleblower? Anybody?
Anybody can be a whistleblower. It could be a member.
Is it anybody who pays tax or just anybody?
It could be employees of LIRS. It could be other stakeholders. It could be taxpayers. And it could be general members of the public, because there are all sorts of issues that can be escalated. It's not just wrongdoing of LIRS staff. It can also be the wrongdoing of employers of labor under remittances, not filing returns, and so on and so forth. It could be on money laundering. So it's a whole array. Any type of perceived wrongdoing, financial crimes, will qualify.
Any compensation, encouragement, incentive for whistleblowers?
Well, one of the ideals of whistleblowing really is to make sure that there's no personal gain to the whistleblower. Otherwise, it might encourage some unethical behavior even on the side of the whistleblower. So for now, for this framework, there is no established incentive. And even if we go by corporate governance standards, 2018, federal government established the corporate governance standards here. It doesn't speak of incentives. And there might be a consideration for incentives in future, but presently, there are no incentives.
Yeah, because if there are incentives, then people may just be tempted to just blow any whistle, even when it's not necessary, just to, go for the remuneration.
That's right. So we want to make sure that, the matters that come in are actually genuine, matters, unethical behavior, no matter how small or big, how serious it is, as long as it's unethical behavior, it needs to be reported. We want to encourage that so that we can improve on the transparency with which we work. The LIRS works with very, very stringent code of ethics, and we expect all members of staff to be above board at all times. We also expect, it takes two to tango, we also expect that members of the public, including employers of labor, are also, also maintain high standards at all times.
You didn't mention that your employees of LIRS can participate in the whistleblowing. Okay, so maybe in their course of work, they notice some discrepancy, then that's, or what kind of cases do you think they can bring up?
Well, employees have a whole range of issues that they can also report. There might be some of their colleagues who are involved in unethical practices, and there might be some fear of victimization. It might even be their line managers or whoever. So they don't want to be victimized. If they report it directly, it might expose them. So this is an opportunity for them. It could be all forms of collusion. It could be collusion between members of staff and some members of the public. So there's always a whole load of things that could be reported.
And all of this, according to you, that's LIRS, is to encourage people, make people trust the agency more and be more responsive, you know, to paying of tax. Have you seen results yet? Have you seen benefits of this yet?
Oh, yes. Already there are reports that have been made. And we know that ultimately we will get a lot of benefit from it. It's to improve transparency, is to ensure that everybody's on their toes, and they just work professionally at all times. So we will definitely get the benefit, because at the end of the day, LRS is charged with the raising of revenue for developmental projects of the state. So if there's any encumbrance to that, we need to clear that. We also need to, the state is also very interested in ensuring that the business environment is open and clean for doing business. So it has a lot of advantages and benefits.
All right, I guess maybe in a year from now, we'll have this conversation and find out,
I would be very willing to come.
If more people have responded positively, and then if it has increased the number of taxpayers, because we always talk about expanding the tax net in Nigeria. I guess this will be one of
I will be very glad to come and tell you the success story.
we'll certainly look forward to that. And you did say that this is just beginning with an LIRS.
Yes.
We expect it to go to other parts of
all
Lagos
the ministries, departments, and agencies of Lagos State. Lagos State is very committed to operating at a very high ethical level. It's a center of excellence anyway. And you know the administration, they take this job very, very seriously. Their governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, you know, is somebody who believes highly in ethics, and he demonstrates this in his operations all the time. So he wants it to be a statewide initiative, not just LRS because of revenue, but even it helps to improve service delivery also. So we need to ensure that all the residents of Lagos get the best of global best practices at all times.
Okay. So if you were to encourage Lagosians to participate in this Whistleblowers Initiative, what would you say to them now? A lot of Lagosians are watching.
I will encourage Lagosians to take advantage of this initiative. It's a great initiative. It's for the benefit of the state, benefit of the residents of the state. So if you have any information on unethical behavior by whoever it is, by stakeholders, please come forward, and you are guaranteed that it will be taken confidentially, and if you choose to remain anonymous, so be it.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ayodele Subairi, Executive Chairman of Lagos State Internal Revenue Service. We do wish you the best, and I'll remind you a year from now that you did promise to come back and tell us how that initiative is going. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome, sir. So we'll take a break now. When we come back from that break, there's the CIBN conference in Abuja. Well, of course, they have great conversations. That should be everybody's business if you have your money in the bank. We'll take that conversation afterwards. This is Business Morning on Channels Television. You're welcome back. Well, from tomorrow, the conference with the theme Repositioning the Financial Industry for an Evolving Local Context will begin in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The Chartered Institute of Bankers Conference is a veritable platform for all banking and finance professionals, regulators, operators, members of the academia, service providers, millennials, bank customers, business managers from all around the globe are there to share their valuable knowledge and experiences. And I bet you are concerned too if it has to do with the bank. Well, we have Mr. Ken Okpara. He's the president and chairman of the Council of the Institute, as the CIBN. He's also the executive director of Fidelity Bank PLC. He joins us from our Abuja studio now to give us heads up on that conference that begins tomorrow. Good morning, Mr. Okpara. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Good morning, it's my pleasure.
So the conference starts tomorrow, and we see the theme, Repositioning the Financial Industry for an Evolving Local Context. Help us to understand why this theme is what you chose at this time.
Thank you very much. First, to say that the annual Banking and Finance Conference, which of course kicking off tomorrow, appears to be the biggest business conference in Africa. Over 10,000 people will be in attendance from all sectors of the economy and also globally, every part of the world. The theme is very deliberate. Essentially, we are talking about positioning the financial services sector for an evolving global context. And we are talking about positioning the financial sector because of what is happening in the financial sector, disruption that is happening, payment system, the way fintech has also continued to evolve globally. But taking into consideration also our local environment is trying as much as possible to bridge that, bring in the local experience and also what is happening in the local environment. So we are going to see speakers also from the continent speaking at this event, and as much as possible, taking into consideration what is happening at the local front, the attrition level of people, as much as what is happening at the human capital. That's why we are saying is global perspective, but looking at local content. Thank you.
So, like you even mentioned, you mentioned the issue of fintech. Recently, we know the fintechs have been getting a whole lot of competition, and sometimes begs the question: are they complements to the banks, or are they competition? But I think one of the issues you're going to discuss is the nexus and the opportunities between these two, the banking sector, the banking industry, and fintech. What's the perspective of the conversation that you're going to be having there?
Essentially, the conversation is going to be talking about collaboration. It's not about competition. It's just about cooperation. In other words, we are looking at how do we partner. It's about partnership within the ecosystem. They provide the financial services using technology and as much as possible. And so basically some few weeks ago, the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria led the collaboration that, of course, forged an MOU with the FinTech Association. And the idea is to find harmony and as much as possible that we would be able to provide a platform for certifying players in that space, given the way that market is moving, given the way disruption is also going as much as possible. And so you are going to see discussion about payment system, how to collaborate, and most importantly, one of the major things you are going to see at that event is the signing of an MOU on the payment, platform by, the Payment System Association. And the idea is basically to provide a platform that will certify payment system, among Africa in the evolving African continental free trade, area. And the idea is basically that we need to harmonize the payment platform that will allow African member country to consummate transaction using a unified payment system, even if they are using different switches, but it is going to be harmonized. So at that event, it promises to be an exciting one. The institution Pan-African Payment System and CIBN will be signing a memorandum that will definitely usher in a platform that will enable players, financial institutions to actually, basically harmonize payment among African countries. Of course, you know that it has been a major challenge, and we are talking about having to drive transaction in the African continental free trade area. A harmonized payment system is very important. And of course, speaking further to that is the fact that if you have your naira, of course, it's not useful in Ghana, or, as much as possible. Whereas if you have dollar, that is, what goes on. And then, of course, you know that we have the euro money as much as possible. That takes care of the euro country. So using this, even when you have Naira, you have Cedi as much as possible, there will be a harmonized payment. Whatever you pay for services in Ghana, of course, would actually happen in an online real-time basis.
Yeah, very interesting, and I must confess that catches my attention because I want to talk about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the FCFTA, and all that. We do have Ghana, and they have started, and we are yet to start. And when you talk about manufacturers, the payment system is a major hurdle to it, and the seemingly breaking communication, because moving goods obviously from one African country to the other seems to be more expensive than moving it out. So it would be interesting to see, apart from the talks and the signing of the memorandum, the implementation of this. How soon do we expect, especially to encourage something like the FCFTA?
Okay, thank you very much. You are right to say that Ghana has started that, but I think Nigeria is positioning, and we are getting there. For CIBN, as much as possible, we are also building up the structure for sensitization. We are going to, beyond the MOU that is being signed, is the fact that there will be training programs, capacity training programs, and also roadshow that will take along the various key sectors. Of course, Nigeria remains one of the biggest economy in Africa, no doubt, as much as possible. And so, so much is happening in terms of building the capacity, in terms of building synergy as much as possible, because you are totally correct. If you have to move something from one country, to another country in Africa, it takes longer, as compared with when you have done that in any part of Europe. So this, again, is part of what is going on. Of course, earlier this year, we had the AFREXIM annual meeting. Different stakeholders had sessions as much as possible to be able to think about how do we harmonize this. I think Nigeria is also positioning. The small businesses are also being capacitated as much as possible to how to take advantage of that. There are so many opportunities that are available in Nigeria. If you look at cocoa as much as possible, you discover that it's one of the major, export earning for Nigeria as it is. And so we want to move away just from being raw material exporting country to a processing hub, which of course central bank has also advanced in terms of providing support. And that is what you see in the RT200, basically geared towards driving support to those that will also process as much as possible, and also the other needed support that we are doing. So I think that momentum is gathering up. CIBN is at the center of it, building capacity, bridging the gaps as much as possible, also forging collaboration among other institutions. So we think that the time has come for Africa to take its right position, and Nigeria, obviously, is in the center of it. CIBN is also playing a pivotal role in that regard.
All right, interesting, and we do hope to see that. But there's also the issue of sustainable development, and that is obviously connected to climate change. The financial sector does have a role to play in this.
Okay, thank you so much, and you've taken it off me. At the conference, we have a plenary session talking about sustainable development, green economy, and then, of course, climate change. You're going to see experts at different areas, different sectors as much as possible, having to discuss this. The financial sector is very much as valuable, and is supporting this. As a matter of fact, part of the content basically for people that are operating, especially in the manufacturing sector, is the fact that how compliant are they to the environment, and which we call the sustainable development. So you develop this, and we must, as much as possible, once you see a credit report from any manufacturing company, the content again will be speaking to how have they complied to the climate change? How have they complied to green mutation in terms of ensuring that the environment that they are operating, they are responsible to it as much as possible? Because, of course, we are conscious of seeing the fact that most of the people operating in those areas, the workers, how safe are they? What are the platforms that are created to ensure that they remain very relevant? And also the environment, how as much as possible have they tried to ensure that those things are also relevant. And in doing this, you will see discussion as regard to that. And of course, there's a program we have at Chartered Institute of Bankers talking about sustainable development. And the key to it is about looking at the environment, looking at how to be socially responsible, looking at how to ensure that people comply with requirement guidelines, as much as possible. So we'll continue to drive this because that is at the heart of what we do as much as possible.
Yeah, so, apart from those conversations and the panels you're going to have, when we talk about cutting emissions and sustainable developments, climate change, it has to do with our everyday activities. So I do hope that apart from those talks, then the message will be passed down into practicing it in the offices every day after the conference.
Absolutely. It's a way of life. And part of what we do is that at the end of the conference, we'll be able to have a communique that will be given to the policy makers and also practitioners. And we will try as much as possible to see how are they implementing this. It's a way of life as much as possible. And I need to say clearly that we are very, very, very serious about it, this implementation as much as possible. We have already put a department at CIBN basically to monitor this and ensure that, of course, that compliance is going on. And I want to say that the Bankers Committee are also very, very, very serious about it. They've put a lot of, given a lot of attention to this. They paying so much, attention, and that's also making sure that, as the industry embrace that. And that for me, that's also a very, very important thing. So it's a way of life as much as possible. Every day we think that should, people should be sensitive to that, both from bottom top as much as possible.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ken Opara, the president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. We do wish you the very best as you begin your deliberations tomorrow, and we do hope that it is taken beyond the conversations into implemented actions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Just to add that this year also promises to be unique in the sense that there's going to be a research study that has been done on the attrition level of the younger ones out of this country. And then, of course, the session promises to provide, what are the areas we think, the industry and also the economy as much as possible would contend this and manage the workforce. Thank you so much.
Interesting, Mr. Opara. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Well, let's head to the markets now. We have Will Ibong stepping in.
Good morning, Nini.
I don't know if her market is so good. I know the equities wasn't so good last week.
It wasn't so good
but I guess all the markets...
I don't have good news this week, but I hope this...
No, it's
last
early
week
in the
was...
week,
Yeah,
yes.
last week was, bad news that I have to report. But I think this week... We'll start off on a
You are
good note.
optimistic.
Yes, very optimistic.
I wish you the very best.
Thank you so much. So we kick off with the FX market where reserves, I'm just talking about Nigeria's FX reserves, which dipped by about 81.74 million naira last week to, settle back at the 38 billion naira US dollar level that we were seeing at September the 6th. Now, trading activity at the forex market mirrored that negative trend. We saw it dip 37.09% week on week to settle at $639.24 million, while the FX spot market dipped 51.92% to $338.7 million. And we look at the futures, the futures was the only positive that we had last week, up 8.83%. Forwards were down. That saw the dip, that gave the dip in the total derivative figure, which was down 3.55% to $305.4 million. dollars that we see there. But, you know, fixed income market was also, bond was bearish, treasury bills was bullish, but we have Akpewe Oputu on the line to tell us how the market performed last week, to give us maybe a positive, you know, insight. Maybe we'll have something different from what happened at the FX market. Good morning, Akpewe. Good morning, Akpewe. Are you there?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning, Will. Thank you for having us on the show. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, Akpewe. Akpewe, we had very, very dim performance in the market last week. So can you just tell us how, in a quick summary, how the market performed last week, especially for the fixed income, in the overall markets generally?
Okay, thank you. So in the fixed income market last week, we had the the NTB maturity of about 214 billion into the market, and we saw the NTB auction rolled over. The total of 214 billion was rolled over. So what we really experienced was increase in the rates across the three standard tenor. We saw the 91 days increase by 150 basis points. For a long time, we haven't seen that much reaction from the DMO. So we saw it close at 5.5%. The 182 days increased by 85 basis points to close around 5.85%. And the major increase we saw was on the 364 days. It moved up from 8.5% to 10% levels. And this actually spurred activities we saw in the secondary market, because we saw other bills, the August 29 OMO maturity, trading around the same 10% levels. So we saw that filter into the bond space. So we saw bonds trading around the short tenured bond trading around 12.6% levels. So this the outlook for the DMO, what happened at the NTB auction actually spurred interest in the short tenured bonds. But on the long end of the curve, we saw the DMO release the calendar for the bond auction, and the 2042, which was initially the long end on offer, was taken out and replaced with the 2037 bond. So we saw yields on the long end of the curve drop from 14% levels to close around 13.7% levels on the bond space.
Well, that is, we're looking ahead for this week. Inflation numbers are expected to drop. How largely do you think that would influence market performance for the week?
So the market is already trading below the inflation figures, and I won't really say the inflation rate has actually played out on the bond space or in the fixed income market. We've seen yields trending higher, which investors would really love to see. For the one-year treasury bill closing around 10%, it actually tells a lot that the DMO is actually looking at increasing interest rates. Even in the money market space, we've seen rates trade up to 12%, 13% levels for about 90 days tenor, which is really good for investors, getting good return for your funds. And then there's an NTB auction that is expected to hold this week. A total of 159 billion is on offer. So we expect that this will be rolled over as well. And we expect to see rates trending slightly higher from where they close. There's also a coupon payment of about 51 billion that is expected to come into the market for the 14 March 2024 bond. With all this improved system liquidity and normal maturity of about 35 billion coming in tomorrow, we expect to see a lot of activity in the fixed income space.
Thank you so much, Akpewe Oputu, Fixed Income Dealer Access Bank, for those insights and hoping that the markets will perform positively this week. So, Ini, that's it for the fixed income space. But at the equities market, you see it's completely red, 0.7% down week on week to settle at 49,695 points. We're hoping that we'll not have a red close, FX market close.
At least let's regain that 50,000
Yes, because
points.
all markets were in the red. The unlisted market was in the red as well. So we are hoping that we'll have a flip to the positive this week.
We'll look forward to that, especially because I'm reporting the market this week.
Oh, yes. So like you wouldn't want to kick off on the wrong.
You know what I'm saying. All right, well, thank you so much. See you at 1:30 here for Business Incorporated. Yes. All right. So now we'll head to London, but that'll be after this break. We know the mood there is gloomy at this time, but Juliana will give us details after the break. This is Business Morning on Channels Television. head to London now, where Juliana is standing by. Juliana, good morning. It was a very busy weekend for you. At least I saw you yesterday speaking to Pastor Matthew Ashimolowo. So obviously, it's still a dark cloud over the UK, but how are businesses responding to that?
Good morning, Innie. Yes, I think it's going to be incredibly difficult to try and summarise or put into context the state of the nation over the past 4 days since we heard early evening on Thursday that Her late Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II had passed. We are officially in mourning. The state of the nation is one of reflection and swift transition, because of course yesterday on Saturday, the Ascension took place. So we do have a new head of state. King Charles III is our new monarch. In fact, as we speak, alongside the Queen Consort, his wife Camilla, they are addressing parliamentarians at Westminster Abbey. The Queen's coffin is currently lying in state in Edinburgh. It will fly down to London tomorrow to Buckingham Palace, and then I believe it'll be lying in state for 4 days. And over the next week, London is likely to be jam-packed. And when I say jam-packed, I mean officially at capacity, because we are expecting millions of people to try and see her coffin. There's lots to take in and lots to discuss. But in terms of business, businesses, of course, have been acting with respect. As the Queen has died, of course, the cost of living crisis hasn't died. Industrial actions that were supposed to be taking place this week from the RMT union affecting rail and the tube, as well as the Royal Mail industrial action, which would have seen letters being delayed. They have been called off. Union bosses, of course, have paid a tribute to Her late Majesty, and they said they will not be conducting those industrial actions. We should be today talking about the new Prime Minister Liz Truss's energy plan, which was announced on Thursday, but then, of course, just a couple of hours after it was announced, the Queen passed on. So Parliament will stop policy at this moment for respect for Her late Majesty, and we will be discussing her energy plan after the funeral, which has been announced will take place on Monday the 19th of September, which will be a bank holiday. So businesses do continue. We are expecting the vast majority of businesses to be shut on Monday, but in terms of government policy, that is on hold for now.
Yeah, so what, do we have any expectations? Everything is on hold now, so we're just waiting until after the 19th so we can get data and all of that.
We are expecting some data. So this week we will be getting data from the Office for National Statistics. I believe on Wednesday it will start with unemployment data. Unemployment currently at a historic low of 3.8%, though of course we know there are still tensions within the labour market, which is why so many sectors across the board are voting for industrial action. But on Wednesday we will be getting up-to-date data for the month of August. We're also expecting inflation data tomorrow, pretty significant. Inflation, high inflation, is one of the reasons why we are in this cost of living crisis at the moment. It's currently at 10.1%, bearing in mind the benchmark that the Bank of England sets is at 2%. We're expecting that benchmark to be risen in due course. But I think quite controversially for some, the Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, decided to postpone the Monetary Policy Committee meeting on Thursday, and that would have taken place at Threadneedle Street. Out of respect for the Queen, it's been postponed until the following Thursday, next week, Thursday, the 22nd of September. Controversial, of course, because we need to know what the interest rates are. They have been hiked consecutively for the past 4 months, but, you know, they've spoken and it won't happen. So we will be getting some data, but in terms of real business sentiment and statements, we won't be expecting any of that now. But of course, I'll still be keeping you updated, Innie.
Trust you with that, Juliana. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you at 1:30. We'll be here.
Talk to you then.
All right. let's head to another market now. It's the crypto market, and see what the numbers are telling us about investors' behavior, action, and reaction. We should have those numbers on the screen in a couple of seconds. There you have it at Fear Greed Index for today compared to Friday. We do have it at 25. That's the number there. This looks better than what we had on Friday at 25. Even though it's still extreme fear, so it means that sentiments are still within that the red zone. We see there. Let's see the market cap for the market. We noted that on Friday, the market cap went back to the $1 trillion. I think it was celebrating, and we've sustained that at least up till today. That's heartwarming, 0.64% up at $1.06 trillion. That's the market cap. But there was a time we used to have about more than 2 trillion here. 24-hour volume is at $75.87 billion. It's up 9.18% in 24 hours. BTC dominance is also positive, but yet to hit that 40%, it's still at 39.55, up 0.46%. If we see top alts by market cap at this time, and if we see top alts by market cap, we do have more reds than green. Top alts by market cap, BNB is up 0.21%. Cardano is down in 24 hours, 0.46%. And it's the Costner is about 0.51. Doge is also down in the red, 0.31%. XRP also down more than 1%. The price of Bitcoin for this morning at about 8 a.m., about 22,000. I was following this over the weekend, and at least it crossed over that 20,000. We don't know if this is going to be sustained, but for this morning at about 8 a.m., it was up 2.15% at 22,036.2. So we have Gilbert Jokpata now joining us for a conversation. Hi, Gilbert. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mrs. Ini.
Thanks. So the price of Bitcoin went from 20 to 21 and is holding on to this 22. Do you see it going back to below 20?
Okay, our last move from the 25K down to 18 was a bleed out, which in most cases always follow with a pop-up rally like this one we are experiencing. But if you look at what's happening in the market, we are looking for a bottom, but our likelihood of going below 20 will depend highly on dollar strength. If we have a sustained period of dollar weakness, then I think likelihood of going below 20 wouldn't play. But if dollar weakness continue, then we may have to stay above the 20K for September and October.
So do you think that the 0.75% hike in interest rate, which the Fed is supposed to implement, do you think that will empower the dollar more, or has it already been priced in? Because that could empower the dollar more. Then, of course, we'll see the opposite in the crypto space.
The other way round, because that can actually have a significant effect on the economy, which is healthy for the stock market. And it's no longer news. The cryptocurrency market is quite correlated to the tech stock market. So this is actually a great time for long-term investors in the cryptocurrency market if you are looking at the reward dynamics, because the market is actually looking for a bottom. The earning report of the four tech stock horsemen, which is Amazon, Google, Meta, and Microsoft, is healthy. And we know these are leading indicators. So also is gas price. Gas price is down. Gas price is also a leading indicator of what is to happen in the economy. So if this leading indicators is already showing us strength, fundamental strength, so also is the cryptocurrency market. I think investors should be more positioned in the big names, because the big names that led us into the bear market will also be these big names that will lead us out of the bear market.
It's that responsibility, Gilbert. I agree with you. If they put us in the red, they should get us out. Oh, thank you so much for your insight this morning, Gilbert Jokpata, for sharing your thoughts with us. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you too.
That's the program for today. It's the first one for the week, so we have 4 more to go. At 1:30, Will Ibong will be here for Business Incorporated. That's at 1:30. And I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Enjoy the rest of your day.